You had this first fight, you won, and then you started getting more students. What made you then decide to start Art of War?
So right after the fight, I go to the hospital. The doctor tells me he X-rays the arm because it was like all swollen. You know what I mean? And so he X-rays the arm and he's like, "Yeah, it's broken." I was like, "What?" "Yeah, it's broken." At that time, it wasn't like because I had never broken a bone in my body before. So I didn't know what a broken bone felt like. During the fight itself, it was painful, and I didn't know it was broken. To be honest, it was my first MMA fight. It was a total spur of the moment thing. Like it was almost kind of stupid that I did that. But when you're younger, you are kind of stupid, and you want to test yourself and do crazy things. The doctor told me that I wasn't going to be able to train 100 days. 伤筋动骨100天. I had it in a cast. If I'm not able to get on the mat, I get like super antsy. You know what I mean? So I was like, if he would have kicked me in the head, like he for sure would have knocked me out. Who knows what kind of damage he could have done. The only doctor that was at the event was a doctor that I brought to the event. I brought a doctor thinking, man, what if something happens to me, right? Or to somebody else, right? And if there's no doctors there, if something bad happens, right, then like the Beijing city government receives like a notice from the police that said, oh, there's some kind of underground like fight club that gets these dudes together and fight, and then somebody was killed. That's the end of jiu-jitsu. That's the end of MMA. It's done. And by that time, I had 6 years tried to promote jiu-jitsu and try to get students and tell everybody that this is a great thing. And then now suddenly the news comes out that some guy died in one of these things. No, I wasn't going to have that. That's why I had to bring a doctor, because there was a ton of people. We were at an Aikido dojo. It was like a neutral location, right? It wasn't my place. It wasn't Xu Xiaodong's place. It was at a neutral location. So I thought, man, these things, these little like smoker events, whatever you want to call them, like people really like these things. It's not more dangerous than boxing. It's not more dangerous than wrestling. It's not, right. It's comprehensive. You just put everything together. You know what I mean? And given that martial arts has a really rich tradition in China, I thought, man, if these things continue, and they continue without the supervision of a doctor, without the supervision of real judges, okay, without the supervision of pre-fight medicals, if these things continue without these things, somebody's going to get seriously hurt for sure. 100%. 100%. So I can't let that happen. I can't let people think. I can't let the Beijing government, I can't let the Chinese government think that what I'm trying to promote is stupid, doesn't take into consideration all these safety factors, and is a violent and barbaric sport. The same considerations that the UFC had in the early days were the same considerations that I had. So what I did was I sat down and I started to write a business plan. The first event we did was at the Beijing Sports University, and we did it inside their it was in their boxing training hall. Right. So it wasn't even in a real venue. It was where the boxing team for the Beijing Sports University is where they trained. Right. Just like a little gym, I think the gym was like it was not even 1,000 square meters. Maybe it was like 10,000 square feet or 12,000 square feet. It wasn't that big. Right. It had a boxing ring set up in the middle. Okay. So imagine like 3 boxing rings. The gym could fit 3 Olympic sized boxing rings. That's how big the gym was. The boxing ring was in the middle, and then on the either side was like the area the size of a boxing ring where you could sit people. Yeah, so it wasn't that big at all. We maybe had 200 people, 200 spectators. I remember on the day of, there was a group of people waiting outside the Beijing Sports University, wanting to come into the training hall to watch. We were already maxed out. You know what I mean? And like campus security were like, we're going to shut you guys down if you guys don't do anything. You know what I mean? I was like, we're not letting people in. We're maxed out. There's no more seats. There's not even standing room. Don't shut us down because you guys can't control the crowd outside, right? We can't control the crowd outside. This is your campus, right? You have to control the crowd outside. We had to talk to the school officials, and students ended up climbing trees so they could see into the window from the trees up here, like the wind. So they had to climb a tree to see over the crowd of people inside. They were looking in through the window, right? But if they were down here, they could only see the backs of the heads of the people standing. So they were climbing trees to look down into the window of the boxing ring. We looked out. There's people on the roofs of like the portables, like next to the gym, all trying to peek through the windows. We set up like a makeshift locker room on one side with partitions. And I remember going back there to find some towels or whatever. And there's like guys trying to climb in through the windows from where we had made a locker room. Wow. That's how badly they wanted to see the fight. I think we had 10 fights that day. Then we had, and it was the first official MMA debut of Zhang Tietuan, who was the first Chinese fighter in the UFC. A lot of other pretty good Chinese MMA fighters who later on, really made a mark. Chinese MMA, the first generation of Chinese fighters. And remember I told you I have that friend inside the China Wushu Administration Center, right? So he helped us tap into all these contacts within the local martial arts community. And because the sports administration, they're all connected. All the guys from Sandan know the guys from wrestling, from boxing, from Taekwondo, so it was easy for us to get in contact with athletes, with combat sports athletes. And also it was easy for us to get into contact with people who had been training traditional martial arts. So we'd say, hey, anybody who wants to come train, then you guys can come train. Sorry, not train, but come compete. Mm-hmm. Now, these are the rules, and they're basically Vale Tudo rules. Yeah, Vale Tudo rules. And if I remember correctly, 10 minutes and 5 minutes. First round is 10 minutes. Second round is 5 minutes. Okay, to a draw. No points. Okay, if there's no KO, if there's no submission, there's no winner. Okay, so if you want to win, you have to submit the other guy, or you have to stop the other guy. There's got to be KO, TKO, submission. Stomps were allowed. Yeah, it was Vale Tudo. And I think the only thing that we couldn't do was we couldn't strike to the back of the head, to the back of the neck, to the back of the head. I think no shots to the kidney. Everything else, soccer kicks, no problem. Elbows on the ground, no problem. Knees to the head on the ground, no problem. It's a fight. No points to a draw. KO, TKO, submission, or draw. Yeah, that was our first event. Because of the old UFCs, that's number one. Because of my background from the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu Academy, that's what I thought real fights should be. Number two, these guys were getting ready to fight in the URCC in the Philippines, okay? And Alvin Aguilar, okay, in the Philippines, in his event, it was 2 10-minute rounds to a draw. So I was only doing 10 minutes, 5 minutes, okay? That guy was doing 2 10 minutes to a draw. Wow. Basically, Art of War 1 was like a testing for the guys that I was training to go overseas to fight in like the most hardcore rule set, in Asia at that time. So I wanted the guys that I was training to be prepared to fight in that kind of environment. If you're fighting in like unified rules and you suddenly go to Pride, dude, it's a big wake up call. They put you on your back and then suddenly there's like knees flying in your face. You know what I mean?
So this event, was it broadcast on television too?
Yes.
On the Beijing television? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not just Beijing television, but in a lot of the smaller satellite TV stations all across the country. This was like the beginning of MMA, the MMA movement to go from, just a fringe sport, right, to getting on television. This really was the beginning of it.
How many Art of Wars did you put on it? Is this still going on?
We've done 18 shows so far. Right now, we're not doing any shows. Big shows, all they do is burn money. They don't make money. So we don't want to do any of these shows that – it makes no sense to do big shows that burn money. There's a lot of events in China right now, and it seems that their philosophy is, if we just burn enough money, we'll start making money, right? I don't believe that if we just burn enough money, we'll start making money. I don't believe that, right? But there are people who believe that, if we just burn enough money, right? If we just outburn everyone else, right? And everyone goes out of business, and we're the only ones left burning money, then people will have no choice but to look at us, right? And I don't believe that that's the right way to do business. So that's not what we're going to do, right? We got to be smart, And there's a lot of, there's lots of promotions that have a lot of money
Yeah.
that they can just burn.
Yeah.
But that's not. I don't think that's the right thing to do.